Hello and welcome to Weekending. On this episode, we talk about the natural beauty market, which globally is valued at over $10 billion and is slated to grow year on year at over 5% from 2020 to 2027. And on the program, we follow two brides who decide to get married in the pandemic. We begin our journey this week with Karma Ayurveda as we speak to the co-founder and CEO of the brand, Mr. Vivek Sahni. Vivek, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here, Ambika.
If you could take us through the history of Karma Ayurveda.
Well, it's an interesting history. It started actually very randomly. We created a very small range, a product for the hair, three products for the face, 2 for the body, and 3 soaps. It was a very, very small range. The real big change actually came in 2012 when we opened our first store in Khan Market. And I think that's when we actually had we could create an image of the brand. And now we're at about, I think, 58 shops and about 35 shop-in-shops.
If you could please share some hair and skin solutions for the current season.
You know, the thing is with India, there's no one season. The countries, so North India is freezing, South India is, is still warm. But I'll talk about specifically, I guess, for colder climates at this point in time. I think the skin needs nourishing. The skin becomes very dry because of the cold and also because of the pollution. And you need a bunch of products which can nourish your skin, nurture it, protect it. And we have, so that, there are multiple products. We have, our best product is the Kumkumadi Night Serum, which the Kumkumadi Thailam, which is, our hero and star product. It's like a miraculous, we call it the miraculous beauty fluid because it is.
How have your sales done during the pandemic as everyone has been shopping local?
When the pandemic first hit, since our business was primarily 70% of our business is from our stores, it's offline. So it was a bit of worrying is putting it mildly because all the shops were shut. And people, there was no action. So basically, mid-March or whatever, end of March, April was sort of disastrous. Luckily for us in May, when online started opening up for us, that really, really helped. And so what we actually did was we kind of turned the business around, and it's now about 70% of the business is online and 30% is offline. So we actually spent this entire time turning the entire business model around. Having said that, obviously, in the last few months, people are going back into shops. What we also did do was we created this model where basically we created online skin consultations and also an online ordering service. So basically, you could pick up the phone, order online, get the order on WhatsApp, and pay. You get a payment thing and a payment link and pay directly, and you would have home delivery. So that really worked. That really, really helped us. So even people who were scared to go into the stores could, call this number and get the products delivered, to the safety of their home.
Please share some numbers.
The stores are about 60% of last year, but e-commerce is, I think, at 300% of last year.
In your opinion, do Ayurvedic beauty products or natural beauty products really work?
Yeah. So I'm going to comment on Ayurvedic beauty care because that's what we do. And which is the reason we chose to create Ayurvedic products as against just natural-based products or just organic-based products. And Ayurveda works. It's the oldest codified system of medicine in the world. There has to be a reason that a science, it is a science, it's a medical practice. We've just taken one portion of Ayurveda, which was, and we use it for beauty, but it's a science which works on the entire body. Whether it's from arthritis to liver function to every possible kind of disease is cured by Ayurveda.
What do you reckon? How do Ayurvedic beauty products compare to the chemical beauty products out there?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say compare. They're two different things. It's a choice you make. What I would say is this, that one is you're using a product which is, well, been around for a very long time. It's been around for a few thousand years. So you can imagine how many, hundreds of generations of people have used it without side effects. With these current products which are made every day, and the new ones coming up, you have no idea what the long-term effects are on your skin or on your hair or on your body.
Is Ayurvedic beauty a viable commercial model in India?
I'd say it's a very viable business. After we opened our first store in 2012, we've grown at about 52% year on year. In the last 6 years, obviously the last year was, doesn't really count. But before that, it's been a 50% year on year growth, which I think is extraordinary. Even though we have a very small base to start with, still, I think a 50% growth year on year is quite exceptional. So I think it's definitely a very strong and good business model.
We're now with Neena Lat Gupta. She is the founder of a 14-month-old beauty brand called Homemade by Neena. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ambika.
So tell us a bit about your brand. Why did you decide to start a homegrown beauty brand?
Well, for one, I've always loved home remedies. It's a very common thing in Indian households to have home remedies for skin and hair care. I fell ill a few years ago and I was very unwell, and I realized that it's not just enough to eat good food, but it's also important to apply healthy things on your skin because it's your largest organ. That's how it started, and willy-nilly it turned into a tiny little startup.
So your brand is 14 months old. So during the pandemic, in terms of numbers, what growth rate did you witness?
In terms of customers, I would say there was a growth rate, and a lot of people heard about it. It travels by word of mouth. There are so many brands in existence that any amount of marketing, we tend to do that ourselves when we look at our phones. We tend to skip an ad. And I find that skincare actually works best by word of mouth.
So 50% customer base increase, 40%, what did you witness?
Yes, definitely more than that, yes.
Give us a number.
I wish I had the numbers on hand, but I think it would be safe to say that yes, my customer base doubled.
All right. And what do you think? Do you think the organic beauty market is a viable model in India?
Oh yeah, definitely so. I mean, even if you look at our customs, our rituals, we tend to use so many natural things. Whether it's a wedding, you have haldi ceremonies, etc. So I think the entire concept of beauty care is derived from natural products.
How do you think natural and Ayurvedic beauty regimes compare compared to chemical beauty regimes?
Well, I'll just put it I'll put it simply in one sentence, that it takes less than 30 seconds for the benefits of whatever you apply on your skin, positive or negative, to get absorbed into your bloodstream. And we wouldn't eat chemicals, would we? So it's the same thing.
All right. Now, for our audience, why don't you show us some skin packs and some hair packs that they could...
I'd be very happy to.
...create in their kitchen.
Yes. So I'm going to make them with ingredients that you would inevitably have in your kitchen, and for ease of use. And I'd be happy to give you a demo.
Let's get started.
Thank you.
So what are we making now?
We're going to make a face mask. 2 teaspoons of the honey. Half a teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil, and half a teaspoon of coconut oil. And then we're going to add a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. This is oatmeal powder, I beg your pardon, I could have just used that. 1 capsule of vitamin E, which you would easily get at your... And then you stir it up. And that's your pack to be used at home. Apply it in the morning when you're having your tea.
So next up, what are you making for us?
The hair mask. This is actually my favorite hair mask. Just whisk it together. I've added the juice of 1 lemon. Half a tablespoon of castor oil. You whisk it again. So you take about 2 tablespoons, which is what this is. shortcut, and I add my shampoo to it. And then I just mix it up and I wash my hair with it.
Well, we just heard the story of two homemade natural beauty brands. But what does the future look for natural beauty products in India? To discuss that, I have with me beauty journalist Vasudha Rai. Vasudha, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Ambika.
Vasudha, I read a report which suggested that in 2019, the global natural beauty market was valued at over $10 billion and it was slated to grow between 2020 to 2027 at the rate of over 5% per annum. What do these numbers look like for India?
See, first of all, I just want to say that India is a very exciting beauty market. I would say one of the most exciting markets in the world, and the beauty industry in India is growing exponentially at a rate of 25% every year, which is huge. And you know, I've been writing some stories, you'll see it out soon, and it's about the evolved beauty customer. And one of the figures that really popped out for me was that 50% of all the beauty buyers in niche and luxury segments are from small towns, like from tier 1 or tier 2 cities. Like, you can't even imagine, like a person in Raipur would buy beauty products worth like 1 lakh. And within this beauty industry, obviously Indians are crazy about homegrown and organic, and I feel like we are so lucky to be in India.
How would you say a natural beauty care regime compares to the results of a chemical beauty regime?
Only if they show results. Ultimately, the only thing that is commercially viable is if they show results.
So do you think a natural beauty business model is commercially viable in India?
Yes, they are. But again, they need to figure out a way to make themselves stand out from the crowd. You know, because we know the natural beauty space is extremely crowded now. Every second day there is a new brand. So it really depends on, you know, your marketing strategy, you know, how you're modernizing. That's why I'm saying that we need to catch up on formulations, because if we can just modernize that natural beauty, and it's not just about your uptan and your oil, why can't we have like a really powerful vitamin C serum made with avla, which is like 20% vitamin C, like that kind of innovation, if that is there in brands, yes, there is a way forward, because we don't want a situation where people, like right now it's the rage, we don't want a situation where people are like, oh, natural means like no results, then people will lose interest. So they need to stand out.
All right. Before we say goodbye, please suggest some skin and hair DIYs for our audience.
So I was talking earlier about actives. So let's talk about, you know, how to reduce the irritated, skin irritations from using too many actives. Like, you know, when you use too much retinol or you use too much peels, your skin gets dry and tight, especially in this weather. It's like, So to reduce that sort of feeling of tightness and dryness and reduce the peeling and redness, the best thing to do is, and this recipe I learned from this, it's my favorite beauty book. It's called Absolute Beauty by Dr. Pratima Raichur, who has her own skincare line in New York. And it's just basic overripe banana and ghee. So if you're using a teaspoon of overripe banana, you will just use like a quarter amount of ghee, and you just microwave them both together, and it just kind of turns into this kind of a liquidy mixture, which you just nicely work in and massage into your face. You have to work it in because both things are very slippery, and do it over a sink, because otherwise it will be super messy. So massage it really into your face, and then take a hot towel, like, wet a towel in like really hot water, wring it and just wipe that off. Your skin will be like really shining and glowing, and you know, all these side effects from like very potent actives, your skin will feel very, very comforted.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Ambika.
Time for a break. When we come back, we take you through the journeys of some brides who are getting married during the pandemic. Welcome back to Weekending. Getting married in the middle of the pandemic seems like quite a daunting task, but how tough is it actually? We find out as we speak to two brides. First up, Upasana. I'm now with Upasana Jaju Ghai. So Upasana, how was it getting married in the middle of the pandemic? Was it daunting?
Of course, it was. We had planned to get married that date, and obviously we had bigger, grander celebrations in mind. But once the pandemic and the lockdown hit, we just as a family decided that we were going to stick to our dates, and we were just going to take it in our stride and have a smaller COVID wedding.
In terms of safety protocols, what are the things that you and your wedding planner kept in mind?
Well, I wanted a very homely feel wedding. I wanted my mehendi to be in my house, which I think they struggle with a little bit with the spacing and how it's going to work, and so many people coming into your house, you have grandparents, COVID perspective. But I think they managed pretty well. For the wedding, I was originally supposed to get married in a maid bhavan, so I always wanted this absolute royal regal look. So I think they did a very good job of trying to recreate that at home.
What's your advice to all the brides out there?
Don't let the wedding get bigger than you and your relationship. It's so easy to get swayed into these wedding plannings and these little extra details in your clothes and flowers and decor. It doesn't matter.
Why did you choose Shantanu and Nikhil? What's the mandate that you gave them?
I had done my research and I always had a basic idea of what I wanted, but I think that's where the designer comes into play, and I could not have made a better decision than to go with Shantanu and Nikhil for my gown and my wedding lehenga.
Nikhil, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It started in March 2020. We're now in January 2021. How has it impacted the Indian fashion business, since the truth is a large part of it was dependent on the big fat Indian wedding, which has become super skinny or non-existent?
Well, Ambika, the world has gone through a massive change, and I think this change is going to have an everlasting effect on all industries. The fashion industry is not very different from the rest, but having said that, the whole idea of weddings being shrunk to 50 people, and with the fear that people are now in to go out, and celebrations have taken a whole different meaning. The industry of fashion, the industry of weddings, they've been impacted hugely. As designers, we are changing and pivoting almost every week, thinking of new ways to reach out to consumers. So it's been a great time for us to be as thinkers. Also, creativity has now come with a different kind of opportunity, I feel.
But weddings were the mainstay of the fashion business. So considering those have reduced considerably from 2,000 to 3,000 people, the guest list is down to 50 to 100 people. What kind of, how is it impacting the numbers of fashion labels?
I mean, this is a direct impact on the industry, right? So if a lesser number of people go to a wedding, obviously lesser number of people are wearing your clothes, which means you have to look at your back end and see how much you really need to produce. Now that cycle has started to happen. Before, the production used to happen in terms of sampling, rather, used to be 5 times a year. We keep throwing drops every other month. Because there was a demand of people going to places to celebrate, celebrations have reduced, number of people going to places have reduced, and therefore the weight on design has reduced. It's made a huge impact on the industry, and I think the numbers will continue to come out every quarter.
How is the pandemic bride different from the bride of the yesteryears?
Difference between the pre-pandemic bride and the pandemic bride is that she needs her solutions right now. You don't have it, party's over for you.
So tell me, Upasana got married a few months ago in the middle of the pandemic. What was the mandate that she gave you?
The mandate here was silhouettes. And because the brand is focused on silhouettes and drapes and structure and fluidity, femininity and a bit of fierceness, she completely related to it.
I read somewhere that the Indian fashion houses, a lot of them have suffered hugely because the weddings have shrunk. Some of them, their businesses have gone down by 50%. When do you think the numbers would start looking up?
Well, it is very clear that the businesses have shrunk. But to give it a specific percentage from previous years, it's hard because numbers are still coming out. But I'm very bullish, Shantanu and I are very bullish that this Diwali is going to be a turning point for the entire industry.
Our next bride is 30-year-old Arushi Khanna. She is getting her mehndi outfit at a store in Khan Market in New Delhi. Turani launched in 2018. The brand's sales were down to 30% back in May 2020. But when they opened up around Diwali, sales revived to an 80%. And now, some days they do better than pre-pandemic sales. Little wonder that the designer Karan Turani is a big fan of the brides in the pandemic. Do you think a pandemic bride is different from a non-pandemic bride? How has the pandemic evolved a bride's perception of what she should wear?
I feel like it's only been for the better for me. As sad as it may sound, but I really feel like it has changed the way the idea of dressing up for us as Indians has kind of completely changed. The notion of actually dressing up for the people around you has changed. You want to do it for yourself.
So Karan, what's the mandate that Arushi gave you for her outfit?
So Arushi came to us saying that she wants to actually really enjoy her wedding. She wants to be herself and she wants to feel light and she wants to be able to dance and have a good time. And that for me again, I think it makes me happy as a designer because it's somebody really living the moment and not really wanting it to be otherwise where they feel lost. They don't even know what exactly happened that day and then eventually you're only seeing a memory of it.
Why green?
We went for green mostly because she was very specific that she wants to part ways with the specific colors that you usually see. She wanted something which is what my idea of the modernity is, that she's not only going for a template of what is ideally supposed to be correct, not your lavenders and pinks and which is a typical bride color, etc. But she wanted something fresh but still have a soul to it.
I'm now with Arushi Khanna, a bride-to-be and a feminist researcher. She's 30 years old and she is getting married in less than 5 days. Arushi, tell us, how is wedding planning going on during the pandemic?
So it's, I think with the pandemic, me and my partner and I, we were very involved in the planning process, even though we do have planners and we've had great planners who've been working with us. So it was very hands-on, but definitely scaled down. So every vendor was sort of picked very carefully just to make sure that they understand that people's safety and hygiene and health is sort of prime importance through the entire process.
So what have you done to make the wedding more intimate, as you said, and more personal?
So it's a scaled down wedding. It is around 50 people as the rules require. A lot of things, I think, from the process of sort of inviting people, our invitations, we've only sort of stuck to really personalized e-invitations.
You'll be here at the Turani store. Why did you pick this brand and what are you planning to wear?
I've actually been following the brand for a while now, I think a little over almost a year and a half, and I always wanted to own a Turani piece, and I'm so glad that I'm wearing Turani for my Sangeet.
What was the mandate you gave Karan?
So I had told him that I wanted to be something that is a pop of color. It's intricate, traditional, subtle, but also sort of makes a statement.
Most brides indulge in a beauty routine or they get on a diet. What have you been doing for your wedding?
So I think the working from home and the COVID situation helped with having a routine with respect to working out.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Weekending. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next week.